Hello everyone and welcome to the YouTube channel for Enchanted Vibes, Spiritual Readings, and Wellness. My name is Queen T and I am the creator of Enchanted Vibes and the co-owner of Vibe and High. In today's video, we are going to be discussing ancestor veneration and altars. These are things that I have learned over the past few years and things that were just really helpful to me and finding my way. So I'm gonna provide some shortcuts and things for you so you don't put unnecessary things on your altar and then have to remove it all, or spend time looking for things to put on your altar that don't even need to be on there. So the first thing is you need to decide where this is going to be. Depending upon your living situation, that may determine where this is, especially if you are practicing in secret. So you want this to be in a space that will not be touched by people and will not be accessible to animals easily. You don't want your cat to hop up and destroy your altar by walking through it, because that's what cats do. And if you're doing it in secret, you may need to use like a drawer. Just it needs to be the only thing that's going in this drawer, hopefully. Or it could be something that you put in like a box, and then you take it out when you need it, and then you put it back in the box. You'll just need to purify the box and the space before you do anything, and then put everything back. You can use the top of a dresser. You can use the shelf in your closet, that very top shelf. You can use your nightstand, a shelf on the bookshelf. All those things are perfectly fine when you are first getting started, especially when you were first getting started. Just make sure that you wipe down the area and remove any dust or debris. Some people believe that there's like there should be a barrier if it's in your bedroom, like it should be behind the door of some sorts, or in a drawer to close, or cabinet, something like that, where because you do naughty things in there. I will say that your ancestors don't stop watching over you merely because you're doing things. They've been around you your entire life. They saw what you did in your bedroom when you were 13 or 14 or 15 or 16 or 17. They saw when you created your kids, if you have them. Like they saw all of that. But if you feel weird about it, perfectly fine. Just create some type of barrier if you feel weird about it. I will say that my first altar was in my bedroom for at least 2 years. And then when I moved to where I live now, I got this really nice shelf. It has a nice like tower. It has 4 different shelves on it. And it was in my living room. Still do naughty things in the living room. And now my living situation kind of changed. And I actually got a feeling that they were trying to say something, and it felt like something was about the altar. So I asked if the altar needed to move, and they said yes, and they actually did want it back up in my bedroom. And I have a idea of why they wanted that. So it's back in my bedroom again. So, and I have this big, huge corner of my living room that's now empty, and I need to fill it. Maybe, because I'm thinking that here pretty soon they're going to have me put it back downstairs in the living room. It's up in my room for a very specific reason, I believe. So, but like I said, if you feel worried about it, just make an accommodation for a barrier if it has to be in your room. It's also way easier for me to just go to the foot of my bed and pray when I have to pray at 4 a.m. But that's just me. So the things you're going to need, you are going to need Florida water. You can either make one. This one is a store-bought one that I have, but I have made 2 myself. So you're going to need Florida water. You are going to need some type of incense holder. I have a small one for like the small sticks, and I have like a pretty one that looks like a sun. I have one of the typical long ones. It's up to you. However, whichever one you want to use if you're using incense. Or you need Palo Santo or sage, and this is just to clear the space. The incense holder, the Palo Santo, and the sage won't really stay on the altar. You can, but they don't have to stay in that space. The white candle is really what you need. These come from Dollar Tree. I can usually get this to burn at least 3 days straight, sometimes 4 or 5 days straight. And just make sure you cut the wick, because this is a very long wick, so make sure you cut that and it will last a lot longer. And also, if there's a sticker on it, make sure you remove the sticker entirely. You want to use your Florida water, pour some in your hand, and then rub it on every single part of the candle. The bottom, make sure again the sticker is off. The bottom, the sides, get the inside rim, and then also get this top part right here, because you don't want anything dusty in there. I wouldn't buy it if it looks dusty, but you know, depending upon, I buy them like 10 at a time. So, you know, kind of get some of that in there. And you can also use a cotton swab to use that. Cotton is an amplifier. Little hint, hint. So you can use a cotton swab as well. You're going to need a glass for water and a small shot glass for gin. A white saucer or a small plate, one that looks like this, it's just fine, and like a white cloth or a lace doily, something like that to put in the space in general, and then you're going to put everything on top of that. If you do not have white for your plate or saucer, clear is fine. Your glass should be clear, but if you don't have clear, white. And it shouldn't have any decorative words or anything like that on it. It should be plain. For the water, if you could get spring water, that's best. If you have to use tap water, boil it first and then keep that water separate, and then use that to replenish when you have to fill the glass again in the next few days. If you're using incense, you want to use something with properties that have like purification, protection, cleansing, something like that. And again, with the water, you just don't want a bunch of chemicals and processing in the water. Gin is the safest bet when it comes to alcohol. It doesn't really have an odor, and it's colorless, and it seems to be a favorite of ancestors. My ancestors will only take gin. They don't want any type of alcohol that is not gin. So there's that. Once you learn how to communicate with your ancestors, you may find that there's something else that they want differently, but that's a whole other video. If you want, and it is optional, you can use crystal quartz. This is an amplifier. I have two different pieces here. Either one is fine. Or you can also use a selenite wand. And these should be charged as well as the crystals. These should be charged preferably under a full or a new moon. Intention matters, so whichever you choose is fine. Just make sure you're clear with your intentions when you do it. They should be charged, I would say, at least 24 hours underneath the full or new moon. All crystals should be charged before you use them on your altar, even if you add more later. But definitely these should be charged first. And then once you learn how to divine, nothing should be added or removed without divination, just to make sure that they approve that you're changing the space. If you have pictures of your grandparents or parents or an elder that was special to you, those are the best things to put on your altar. If you don't have a picture, but you have something that belonged to them, something that has their ashe, their energy on it, that works as well. I have not a locket, but I have a charm that belonged to my grandmother, and I also have a childhood toy of my dad's. I also actually have the ashes of 3 of my family members on my altar. my father, my grandmother, and my uncle. My uncle is on there because he helped raise me, and we shared a birthday. So, and we were very close. So, all those things, or something that they gave to me. My dad's mom, she gave me something when she went to Germany last, and so that animal is actually on there. If you were adopted or orphaned or don't know one side of your family, there is a very easy workaround for that. And this also works for calling forth your elevated ancestors who live too far back in your bloodline for you to know. You can get a picture frame, preferably white. Take out that piece of paper with the fake family. You don't want that. Use the Florida water and a cotton swab. Wipe it down, front, back, sides, all of that. And pray over it. And you want to ask that the frame be a symbol of generations lost and the benevolent spirits that walk with you to join your space to assist you on your journey in this life. Something like that. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but something like that. Anything that can be wiped down should be wiped down. So the glasses, the shot glass, the plate, all of that should be wiped down before you put it on your altar. Same thing for like even the incense holder. Wipe that down if you can. Anything that can get wet, you should wipe it down. If it can't get wet, if you can kind of like sprinkle, if you get one of those tiny spray bottles and like for the white fabric itself, you could spray that with Florida water. If it can't get wet, pray over it heavily. Heavily. So you want to place the glass of water, the shot of gin, and an offering of like fresh fruit on the plate and put that all in your space. And then you want to light your incense to clear the space. Do that. I would do that first. Put everything in its place. Pray over the things that need to be prayed over while the incense is burning. And then once you have everything in the space, I would light your white candle and pray out loud for at least like 5 minutes. Just a general, I always start mine off with thank you for blessings, both seen and unseen, for those understood and those still a mystery. And then go into thank you for this, thank you for that, thank you, bunch of thank yous. And if I ask for anything, it's things that are not just for my good, but for the greater good of my entire bloodline. And you want to ask the benevolent spirits that walk with you to guide you and care for you through your journey in this life, and ask them to work together in harmony for your greatest good and for the welfare of your bloodline. That work together in harmony part is important, because family feuding doesn't stop just because they're on the other side. And I would let this candle burn until you get all the way around to where it's melted all the way around, at least about half an inch or so, because candles hold a memory as far as how they burn. So if you only let it burn for a little bit and then blow it out, it's gonna start to burn weird. So every time you burn it, it needs to burn probably, I would say, at least half an hour, so that the whole first layer is completely melted. And that just depends on how big of a candle you get. With those, it takes about, I would say, 30 minutes. I've never actually checked. Pray your altar at least once a day, and more if you can, particularly if you're like extra emotional, in good or bad, happy or sad. If you're angry, ask for a calm spirit, but do not pray for vengeance or retaliation. That uncle that killed 3 people and died in jail just might be the one to answer you. That is not a power that you are ready to wield at this point in your practice. So just be very careful of what you ask for them. And it never hurts to throw in with no harm to others during your prayers. And that's for everything, especially if you're praying for something that requires, like if you're praying for money, you don't want someone to die in order for you to get this money, right? You don't want to get maimed in a car accident and you get to sue because it was a drunk driver and your kids were in the car and they also died, but you're still alive and you now have $1 million. Like, you don't, those are the types of things that can happen when you're not specific and intentional. So make sure that when you do pray, make sure, I would add that with no harm to others, because there's also other entities around you and they will jump at the chance to cause chaos. And it's worth noting that all these energies exist around you, whether you are at your altar or not, and whether you have an altar or not. And they will hear you the same in your car or in the bathroom as a restaurant as they do at your altar. So your bond with them will determine how quickly they move, and what you're feeding them will determine how quickly they move. Do not give them flaming hot Cheetos and a fruit cup or junk food. Don't give them Doritos or Skittles or M&Ms. Even if that was their favorite thing, don't do that. They are still energy. They are still vibrating at an energetic level. Food has a vibration as well. So you want to give them high vibrating items so that it can help restore them. They're not physically going to be eating or drinking anything, but the energy from the food in your prayers will feed them. And I recommend giving them a warm meal at least once a week. If you can't do that, do it on like a full moon, a new moon. Holidays are a great way to incorporate them into the celebration, or even just like a birthday, specific days of the month, something like that. But try to do it regularly. The more often you can, the better, but you don't have to do it every day. Not hot food. I would keep maybe fruit or vegetables on there once a week, and then a hot meal once a week, if you can. But something is better than nothing. So whatever you can do, but just be very intentional about it. Keep your altar space clean, as if you always had company coming, because you do. Essentially, you always have someone in your house. So you want to make sure that the space is clean. Don't allow dust to collect. If you notice dust in the drinks or something like that, wash them out completely, and put fresh drinks inside. This is a sacred space. So even if it's in a drawer, just because you're venerating them in secret, you still need to keep it neat. So I hope this video was helpful and answered some questions that you had about starting your altar and like the basic care of the altar. And this is one of those topics that seems like really simple, but it's kind of complex a little bit. What the things you put on it is very simple. You could only have 3-4 things in there and be fine. But you know, how you go about taking care of it is important. So make sure, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. And please make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and follow Enchanted Vibes and Vibe and High on all social media platforms.